Alright, after playing around with our models, we got our gunslingers all put together here. Now, a couple of things worth pointing out. I'm not the best when it comes to posing. I wanted her to have the rifle kind of off to the side, but I'm not happy with my final results. I didn't glue all the saddlebags on yet. Wasn't sure which ones I wanted to use. I did glue some, which we'll show you guys. The legs. I'll talk about the legs real fast. I want to say there was only one pair of slacks or jeans on the sprue. I could be wrong, but the overwhelming majority of the legs are going to be in these either dresses or skirts. Hopefully that's not much of a deal breaker, but I would assume hypothetically if you've got the men for the plastic, mounted kit, you probably could swap out a pair and it wouldn't make a huge difference. Maybe they're really baggy on them. I don't know. I do like the fact that at least the arms there, you can see, hit the saddle pretty close by, or at least where the reins are, so kind of makes sense she's just kind of riding forward. I played around with all the horse bodies. You basically are going to be stuck with the matching pair on the inside of them. They have some keyed sections. You cannot swap those around and end up with really bizarre poses, of which I've done. I'm thinking specifically back to like some of the War Games Factory samurai mounted models, which I made some really atrocious decisions, and nobody seemed to actually be able to ride their horse like a actual horse or human. Obviously, all the heads are swappable, and one of the nice things I do appreciate that every horse does have at least 2 solid contact points, and obviously you'd want to build up some sort of a base to cover up those little puddle bases. Some people aren't a huge fan, but I think they're small enough that they're not going to make a huge difference, and really it's going to help the figure be a lot more stable, so I don't find that to be that much of an issue. Now, my first thought was, gunslingers, they're all getting masked up, bandit style. Who knows? Maybe they're not even bandits. Maybe they're just up to no good. Maybe they're out for some revenge. I don't know. Here you can see one of the horses I had started to play around with mounting the saddlebags on and a spare rifle there. Nobody can accuse me of doing a nice job, at the very least, but we can always go ahead and clean that up a bit. One of the other nice things that I appreciate about horses like this is I don't have to deal with all of the filigree, barding, and extra armor that I tend to have to mess with when painting knights and historical stuff like that. So it's a lot easier just to get the job started. So you can see most of the riders just kind of plug right into the saddles, so that's pretty nice to see. I don't know, she's just kind of holding everybody at gunpoint there. Don't know how safe that would be to ride in guns blazing like that. Again, these ladies are mean in business. You can see one of the bedrolls there. Something on the back. Finally, I couldn't resist at least having one of our ladies with a lasso. Getting that lasso, however, and the hat and the body and the arms to cooperate was not the easiest challenge, but eventually we did persevere. Size-wise, I mean, I was looking around for some other mounted models I've got, and I couldn't find anything. Honestly, the closest thing I could find, and even that I feel is like too big, is like one of the Ever-Chosen. So I don't know if that's going to give anybody a real good sense of scale. I have got Conquest cavalry painted. I should have like some cataphracts and, Perry stuff. I don't know where it is. And they were all specifically in one container of nothing but mounted figures. And there were like a bunch of Seraphon Lizardmen Dino Riders. I don't know where they are. Maybe they're in the garage. Maybe they're tucked away on one of the shelves. So, yeah, that's probably not a good size indicator. And like I said, the Conquest stuff, even less so. where the rider barely comes up to the horse's knees. That's saying something. But, you got to give the Conquest stuff credit for just having some sheer oomph presence on the table. It's a handful of a model. But yeah, zooming things out, if you're looking to use these, at least in a Western setting, obviously, with Dead Man's Hand, you've got like a built-in game. That's what these are for. But, with the advent of the upcoming Shadows of Brimstone train robbery sets and having mounted figures, you can see with some of the traditional Brimstone models here, the size, obviously, we're going to want some compatibility with our unmounted and mounted Lady Gunslingers. They're all pretty close with the actual Brimstone models, so it could be a cool way to expand your options for both mounted, unmounted heroes, for new characters, for, encounters on the table, or, do what I do and start looking into expanding your Brimstone collection into more tabletop skirmish games. So that's an option too. But nevertheless, there's a whole lot of cool stuff that has been continued to be released by Great Escape Games for their Dead Man's Hand. There's been a slew of metal gangs, posses, I forget the official term for it, that I wasn't even aware of until just recently. So I'm going to have to be taking a closer look at that. Never mind all of the various scenery that they've put out, too, in plastic, I might add. So that's something to be taking a look at as well. But it is nice to have some, representation on the table of everybody who'd be out there rustling cattle and robbing the banks or what have you. So, good to see. And we can always use more kits in plastic to further supplement all the fun goodies that most of us already have. So with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye!